Alright, I know I look rough, um, and you're gonna hear dog panting and breathing in the background. There's not much I can do about that. She stays up under my butt 24/7. But this video, and it may have to be broken up into multiple videos because I'm not really sure how it works uploading really long videos to Facebook, and this one's it's probably going to be long, so I may have to break it up. I don't really know how to start this. And now there's a fly, because why not? Why not? I look like crap, my dog's panting, and now there's a fly. If you can look past all this, this is an important video, at least to me. It's important to me, for me, and for my daughter. So, today is July 8th, which is my husband's birthday. My husband who passed away. Today would be his birthday. And of course, that brings up a whole lot of emotions and thoughts, and it's never an easy day. Neither is, the day that he passed away. Every year, those 2 days are difficult, and I think anybody would understand that. One, I'd like to say, I think there's a very big misconception and assumption that because I've moved on and I've dated and I'm currently dating someone that somehow I just completely forgot about my husband. That it doesn't bother me that he's gone. Like I just never miss him. And that is the most insensitive and frustrating thing that I get from people. And it's not that people just come out and say it, but it's like people expect me to not ever be emotional thinking about him, or I'm never going to be upset again, and I don't miss him because I've moved on. And that's just not the case. That's not true. It's not how this works. You can move on because that person is gone and they're never coming back. But pieces of them stay with you. And me and Eric were together for 10 years. We have a beautiful child together, and so much of my life, because we got together when I was really young. He was such a huge part of my life, and that never goes away. Now, it's no secret to most people our relationship was a roller coaster at best. We definitely went through a lot. It was not the best relationship. It was not, something that a situation I'd ever get back into. But it was what it was, and it happened, and we were together for 10 years. And there's no taking that back. So, no matter what, I know a lot of people will look at Eric as he was a drug addict, and he was this bad person, and I knew a side of him that no one else did. Did I have things that happened in my relationship that were bad? Yes. Also, I was not perfect. Me as a young and in love teenager, I was a nightmare too. So I would say that was tit for tat. But just because things weren't perfect, just because he ended up in the situations that he ended up in, none of that takes away the memories that we shared, the love that we did have for each other, and just the fact that I grew up in that time. That's the thing about getting together when you're young. There's so much that you just don't know. And I grew up with him in a way. And I became a mother. And he was there with me. And, it's just, no matter what, there is a bond that never, ever goes away. So today is an emotional day for me. It is difficult, and it does bring up a lot. However, the point of this video isn't just that. There are other things that keep me from moving on in a certain way. Certain parts of my past, or certain, I should just say, people, really just don't want me to move on. And when I say they don't want me to move on, I mean they don't want to see me happy in any way, shape, or form. They want me to pretty much, they want to pretend that me and Eric were never in love, that we were basically never married. They were trying to erase that from history. And at the same time, they want my daughter to themselves. And due to circumstances that I will be getting into to some extent, that's not going to happen. And I know many, 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 many of you have read my posts over the years about how I wish this person would just leave me alone. I wish they would leave my daughter alone. I'm tired of people who have hurt my child trying to continue to be in their life, or in her life. And I know a lot of you have read those posts. I know some of you know who it's about. I know some of you don't. I've had a lot of people recommend certain things, restraining orders and so on and so forth. And I'm going to just finally put this out there without using their name. But I'm going to put out there the truth of what's happened, what I've tried to do to deal with it, and why we're still in this position today, because it has not ended. I don't know that it ever will, until the day that person dies. And even then, even when that day comes, I'll never be free of it, and neither will my daughter, because unfortunately the person who's making our lives a living hell is a family member, someone that she has loved and trusted for the majority of her life. But now, we've tried to get away, we tried to separate ourselves, we've tried to, no contact, just please leave us alone. I have begged, I have fought, I have pleaded, I have done all that I can do, and it just never stops. So I think it's time to just put it out there. And I don't think that this will make it any better. In fact, it may make it worse. But God forbid things ever get taken too far. If anything were to ever happen to me, I do want people to know. I want people to understand what we've been through, me and Norma, and how difficult it is on days like today to mourn and miss someone you loved and cared about so much, but yet not feel I don't know, it just brings up all this other crap that's going on, all this other stuff that's happening. Like, I can't just wish that my husband was here for my daughter. I can't just think about how bad I wish he could see her. That's hard enough on its own, but when it's clouded and overshadowed with all of this other mess, it's just horrible. It sucks. And I don't think it's gonna end. So I'm just gonna get into it, because this is already 8 minutes and something. I'm gonna start from the very beginning. And you know what? I think I'm just gonna lay this out in one video if I can, and I may just maybe upload it to YouTube and post a link and ask for people to watch it. I just want this out there. So we'll see. But I think it'd be easier than to stop and restart and all that stuff. So we're just one video. Let's do this. And it's a lot. So at the very beginning of my relationship with my husband, we were very much young kids, in love, could not separate us. It was just, we loved so hard, so fully, so much. I got pregnant pretty quickly after we got together, moved in together. It was bam, pregnant. And this person, the first thing this person ever said to me when we were like, hey, we're having a baby, we're so excited, the first thing she ever said to me was, don't ever let me, or how was it worded? Don't ever let me have to go to court, or don't ever, see me in court, or whatever. what she was referring to, and there was a bit more to that, but I'm going to leave that part out because it involves another family member. But she used them as an example, like such and such. And what she was saying was, I'll take your baby. If you ever try to do anything, if you ever try to leave or whatever, I will get custody of your child. And I know she had no trouble lying in open court under oath to help get custody of other children from their mother, who left because the situation was bad. And in all fairness, was that person the best mother? I don't know. But I was definitely lied to for years that she was just this horrible person who took these grandbabies away, and she just didn't want the grandchildren to have anything to do with the family, and later found out that was not the case at all. She was in an abusive relationship. She was tired of being abused. She took her children and got away. And this woman got those kids back. So the very beginning, first year of our relationship, boom, the first few months, I'm pregnant. And the first thing she says isn't, oh my God, I'm excited, congratulations. It's, don't let me see you in court, because it's implying I'm going to take your kid. So if that sets the tone of this relationship, that's the bare minimum of what went on. And I'm not going to get into all of it because it's not important for everyone else to know. But I will say, over the years, she was very, very nice to me. Very, very nice. But anytime that I would push my husband to, let's start saving up money. Let's get our own house. We don't need to live here forever, Anytime that things like that would get brought up, the idea of us leaving that house, issues would get started. And I mean, really, really bad fights, screaming, yelling, just all out arguments. There was always some reason, something keeping us there. And now I can look back and I've realized so much that she never wanted us to leave. She genuinely, and she said it like, joking, like, y'all could live here forever. That's, y'all can't leave with my baby, talking about Norma. The truth is, she never wanted us to leave. She genuinely wanted to keep Norma for herself. And like I said, I'm not going to go through every situation and all the specifics, because it's 10 years worth of shit, and I mean, day in and day out. But there was times where she was ultra nice to me when everything was going her way, and any time that I strayed away from what she wanted, that was a problem. If I wanted to move out, if I wanted to do better for myself and my family, I was wrong. Same thing with Eric. He got treated the same way. It was fine as long as he was playing along. But the minute you try to do something different, it was a problem. There were times where she wanted to take my child on a trip out of state, and as a young mom, first-time mom, I was like, no, that's a baby. I don't want her away from me ever. And I would catch a lot of crap for that. It would cause a big family argument. My husband would be mad at me because he didn't understand why I wouldn't just let her go. And I'm like, because it's my kid. I'm not going. I want my child with me. So things like that, and then other stuff over the years. So I'm going to skip way ahead to right before Eric died. This is in the same year. I had found out, well, I guess maybe it wasn't in the same year. Sorry. Anyway, that part doesn't matter. We had found out that my daughter had been molested. Worse than molested. I'm not going to go into details because there's no point. She had been hurt and touched by a family member. Because of this, he wasn't supposed to be around. That was a full stop. He cannot be around my child ever again. He was sent somewhere, and I was still trying to work out in my brain, like, how do I deal with this? Because it is the worst thing that can happen to your child. And when it's done by someone that you also love and trust, it is awful. There's just no way around it. And when I say these things, I'm not just saying it like, my daughter told me. It came up because of something else that was going on. She tells me what happened. He was sent off. Well, not even a couple days later, I'm still thinking he's away where he's supposed to be. He comes into the house, and this woman is talking to him. Well, you can come down here, we'll get your homework done, and you're going to have to make your grades better. Meanwhile, I hear them speaking, and I'm like, why is he here? Why in the hell is he here? I locked my daughter in her room, or in the room we were in, and I go out and I tell him to get the hell out. And I will be honest, I told him to get the hell out because I'm going to hurt you. I mean, the amount of self-control I had in that moment, I'm pretty proud of, because I'm sure any parent would understand how hard it is to keep that together. He leaves. Thank God that happened the way it did. And this woman turns around and tells me, you can't tell my grandchild he can't be here. Meanwhile, your granddaughter, her granddaughter, is in the other room. The one that was hurt and abused. And not just once. Over and over and over. It led to a fight. Screaming match. Back and forth. I'm going to tell the truth. She came up at me and like to get in my face, and she's screaming, and I pushed her. She falls down and she starts screaming, call the cops, call the cops. My niece was there, and call your daddy. And so I call my parents and I'm like, come get my child. I'm going to jail. She's got to go somewhere. Get her out of here. Luckily, I did not go to jail. I moved right in with my parents. I only had enough time to literally grab Norma's stuff. And when I say Norma's stuff, I mean a little bag with her important blanket that she calls Binky, and a couple clothes. We had nothing. We went to my family's house. We had nothing. We were sleeping on a mattress on the floor for the first few days until my parents, who are amazing, set us up upstairs. But we had nothing. I called and reported it to the police. I reported it to social services, because that's, long story short, the reason we found out about this was because the social services case had been open in a different situation. So I reported it to them as well. I had to take Norma to a place called Teddy Bear, where they do a physical exam and they do a psychological exam, and to determine whether or not the child has been abused in any way. At the end of that visit, they confirmed. Sorry. And for her sake, I'm not going to tell the details, but they confirmed that she had been hurt in the worst ways possible. But I mean, I knew because I believed her from the beginning. I knew it had happened. I just didn't know how bad it was. So from that point on, we live with my family. I tried to go get our stuff from that person's house, and they wouldn't allow me to. Luckily, the other person living there did allow me to get some stuff. I had a very limited amount of time, and I couldn't get like a truckload of shit and stuff, sorry. And so I grabbed all of Norma's things that I could. I grabbed my important paperwork and stuff, but we lost everything. We barely got anything from that house. We started with nothing. And it didn't matter because, my daughter was safe. And at the time, Eric was in prison when all this happened. So we continued to talk. We were still together. He supported me leaving. And if someone wants to dispute that, I've got a letter he wrote me from prison where he tells me that I did the right thing and I protected our child. So from that point, I didn't speak to that woman, and I would not let her around my child. I did let the other family member come by and see her, see Norma. And then Eric came home, and that's when we separated. And that was because I knew that living with my family, he couldn't just move in and then mess up. I couldn't do that to my family. I could not have him come home and have the potential of getting back into drugs and doing anything that would hurt my family. Not physically hurt, but, you know. I couldn't put them through that. They had been so good and kind to take us in and take care of us fully because we had nothing. And Eric understood that. My dad had a talk with him and told him, you know, you've really got to get it together. And I know it hurt him. I know it did. And there's a lot of things that hurt Eric in the last month or so of his life, and I hated it. But I know that in my heart, Eric loved us. He loved me. And one of the things that has triggered me to make this video is the fact that this woman is trying to erase every ounce of love and respect that Eric had for us. There was a couple times over the years where we left. We would pack up and we'd move out because things were so bad. And there was one time in particular where this woman just was going off, and she said some horrible, horrible things about me and to me. And I remember Eric got in between us, and he took up for me. Every time he took up for me. And she hated that. She could not stand that. But he did. Because Eric was the one who knew what was right and would say it. There were times where I was in the wrong, and he told me. He got on me. He was a very fair person. If you were right, he would tell you. If you were wrong, he would tell you. So there were times where I was most certainly in the wrong. I took things too far. I could have handled it differently. But the majority of the time, he took my side, and she hated it. So when he came home, I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit sidetracked. You know, we separated. We still talked. You know, we said we were separated, but I'd go over there and watch a movie with him and Norma. You know, we were still very much, we loved each other. Well, fast forward, Eric passes away. And, of course, that brings us all back together. And I'm going to get into the funeral stuff because I feel like that is such an important point of this whole thing. It's the point where I should have put my foot down and I should have severed ties right then. Obviously I didn't, or else I wouldn't even be here today. But I think that that's a really key point to all of this. When Eric died, we were married. That's something this woman would love to deny, she would love to erase, she would love to forget, but we were definitely married. I had all legal right to do whatever I wanted with the funeral, the burial, whatever. I was not about to be an asshole. This is this woman's child. I'm not going to take away the mother's right to do things the way she wants to. Because I'd be damned if it was my child. I'd be damned if anybody else is going to, to make decisions like that. So apparently when I first went to the funeral home, the director was like, now I know you're his wife, but we're not going to have any issues. And I'm like, what do you, and at the time, and I want to preface all this funeral stuff by saying, I was so out of it, okay? I was taking an antidepressant. I was in shock. It's when you love someone who's an addict, you know it can happen. You tell yourself all the time it can happen, but there is no preparing for it. I looked at Eric like, like Superman. He couldn't die. Nothing could touch him. Been hit by a transfer truck. He had overdosed before. He's been through so much. There's no way. So I was in shock. I was out of it. Everything with the funeral stuff is kind of like a blur. You're just not in an emotional state to stand up for yourself at all. So I didn't realize at the time, how would this man know that we might have problems? How would he know? Didn't think about it. I was just like, no, we're not going to have any problems. Like, all I want is to make sure that this is something that Eric would want. Because originally, he wanted to be cremated. But, his family was so against it that I would never, in their hardest days of losing their child, be like, no, I'm going to do the one thing you don't want. So I was fine with him being buried, and they were paying for it. So I felt my input should be somewhat limited. That's his parents. They're paying for it. All I wanted was to make sure that it was something he would have liked. When you're with someone for so long, you talk about these things a lot. And I knew exactly what he would have wanted. So we go in and we plan it, and things went fine. As far as I was concerned, I thought things went fine. The only things I asked for, I wanted his casket to be black, and his mom, I might as well just say his mom. We all know who I'm talking about, but whatever. I don't care at this point, and I'll get to why later. She put a motorcycle thing in there, and I asked that we were able to do the music, me and Norma. That was our way, because his mom was doing the pictures and stuff, and we gave some pictures or whatever, but she did most of that. She pretty much planned the whole funeral. I just asked for a black casket, and that me and Norma could sit down and do the music. And we made like a memory board and stuff like that. Well, in the meantime, things that I did not realize were going on. The funeral home released his clothes that he was wearing and the jewelry, which is very important, that he was wearing, to his mother. She went up there and got them. They were supposed to come to me. At that time, I was grieving. I was upset. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even know how this stuff worked. I had no clue. So I never asked questions. When it came time to bury him, we couldn't find his rings. We found one. We couldn't find his rings. We couldn't find his necklace. We're searching for him. We can't find him. I was upset that he wasn't going to be buried with his wedding band. I was still wearing mine at the time. I wore it for a very long time after. Well, later, much, much later, he was already buried. I got the autopsy report and the police report. And all he was wearing was a hair tie on his wrist, his boxers, a pair of shorts, a pair of socks, and his wedding band. That is what he died in. He died with his wedding ring on. And that would have been returned to the funeral home. And his mother picked it up. And she made sure that he was not buried with that wedding band. And I've never seen it since. And I know her, and she'll probably say, I kept it so that Norma could have it one day, but it's not something she should get to decide. That was something that should have been given to me. In the meantime, I go to bring the music that me and Norma sat down and picked out equally together. It was a heartbreaking but good experience. And we get to the funeral home, and I give the woman a thing, and I'm talking to the funeral director, and in the middle of our conversation, his mother calls, wanting to know if she can change the music. And apparently she had been giving this funeral director hell, and he was like, no, she just brought it in, my assistant already has it, no. So she was going to try to even change that behind my back. Then she goes and behind my back and is telling people, I'm going to write the obituary. She's not writing the obituary. Like, as if that's something I want to do, you know? And I hadn't fought her at all on any of this shit, at all. never disagreed at all. I was just like, you do what you want to do. I just want to make it as good for Eric as I possibly can. I'm way more concerned about my child who has just lost her father. So she writes this horrible obituary. It was awful. People were attacking her for it, or messaging her and commenting like, why would you write this? Who would write such an obituary? And I stood up for her. I stood up for her because that's what Eric would have wanted. And I get so sick and tired of hearing what Eric would and wouldn't have wanted from her, of all people, because I truly stand by and live by what Eric would have wanted. And she tries her best to throw in my face Eric wouldn't have wanted his child not to see his family. No, if Eric Lassiter were here today, he would tell every single one of his family members to go straight to hell for what they have done and how they have acted. Maybe not his big pawpaw, his pawpaw, but... So we get through the funeral. At this point, we're all close to get again. I'm letting Norma spend time with her grandparents, and Eric's daddy was alive at the time. He was not doing well. So we stay close. I start allowing her to see them again. And I'm going to skip a lot of stuff. I'm just going to fast forward. There was one point in there that I did stop her from seeing Norma. I stopped Norma from going with her places. I stopped Norma from going over there because I found out that that person, pretend y'all didn't. It doesn't matter because everyone knows, but that's not the point. The person that hurt Norma was being allowed to come around. And, yes, people were there. That was the thing. We're here. Okay, we were all here when it happened. No one knew what was going on. That doesn't change anything. He should not be allowed near my child, period. So there was a time while Eric's daddy was still alive where I told them, if you want to see her, you'll come over here. Eric's daddy would come sit in his van in front of my house. The only reason he wouldn't come into my house is he was on oxygen. It was hard as hell for him to get out and walk. That man would sit there for hours with her. Because when you truly love your grandchild and all you want is to see them, you will do that. If that's what it takes to see your grandchild, that's what you do. His mama never did. She has always, if I can't take her somewhere, or she can't come to her home, which means, her home, then she don't want to see her. And that is a pattern that continues for the next several years. So I'm going to skip ahead. Eric's daddy passes away. Of course, we're there. Of course, I wanted Norma to be there. She loved her pawpaw, and I want to make this so clear. Norma loved her pawpaw more than anything else in this world, and that man loved her. He didn't always stand up to his wife. He didn't always do right, but he freaking loved my child, and he was a wonderful, wonderful man, a wonderful grandfather. I have the utmost respect for that man. I can't stress that enough. Whether or not he liked me, I don't know. He always treated me well. I know the day before he died, he did say that he loved me. I'm sure there was times where he might have hated me for certain things that I did or said or decisions I made. But that doesn't even matter. He could have hated my guts. The way he loved my child is all that I cared about. And I will always, always love and respect that man so, so much. So when he passes away, I'm letting Norma go back around her, and a couple years in, I allow her to start spending the night again, going over there, going places with her, spending the night. And out of nowhere, my child comes home one day and she's acting funny, and you can tell when something's wrong with your kid, something ain't right. And she says, well, I saw him, the person that hurt her. But the first story she told didn't really make sense, so I let it go. And she comes back to me and she's like, I got to tell you, Mama, he came over for dinner. Her grandmother after all these years, after knowing what happened, allowed him, invited him, set it up where they would eat dinner together and try to tell my daughter, he's changed. Yeah, he did those things to you, but he's changed, and he'd never do that again. All behind my back. All of this behind my back, hoping that Norma wouldn't tell me. Thank God my child told me. So needless to say, I cut her off. You're not seeing her. Again, every time I say I cut her off and she wasn't allowed to see Norma, I always, up until this very last time, but every other time, I've always said, if you want to see her, you come see her where I'm living. And no, I didn't have a home of my own, but you can come see her where I'm living. And she would throw it in my face, that's not your home, that's someone else's house. I'm not coming to somebody else's house. Every time. So years go by. At some points, I still would allow her to see her here and there. Sometimes I'd let her take her somewhere. Well, enough years had gone by. And this woman apologizes to me. She cries. She tells me that she finally realized, she didn't want to believe it, but she finally believes it, that this happened to Norma. And I'm like, okay, so I trust her. Again, this has happened several times. There's more than what I'm telling you, but several times. I'd trust her, something would happen. I'd trust her, something else would happen. I'd trust her, something else would happen. Also, I want to say, in the meantime, she's telling Norma, this is your home. This is your real home. This is your only home. No matter where I'm living, my child's home is with me. But the whole time she's manipulating her. And that's the thing about this woman. She's extremely manipulative. Extremely. To the point where I was manipulated. When I lived there with Eric, I wasn't allowed to go and do anything. I couldn't go to the grocery store or Walmart, at night or anything. Like, I was trapped in that home, but I was so manipulated that I thought it was all for my own safety. So for years, I, a grown person, couldn't do things, but I thought that was normal. And I didn't realize that it wasn't normal until I moved back in with my parents, and they're like, you can do what you want, you're grown. And I'm talking about some of the most basic, simple stuff. I'm not talking about going out and partying or anything. I didn't do any of that. But just very simple stuff, like if I was late, if I took longer than I thought I was going to the store, I'd be texting my mom like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she's like, why? I didn't realize I was manipulated. So all this time that Norma is going to see her grandmother, this is your home. This is the only home you'll ever have. This is where you grew up. We are your family. And slowly manipulating her, well, you're going to fix up your daddy's room, and this is your home. And when you get old enough, you come live with me. All the time, behind my back. So after years of this on and off, like I said, I'd be like, I've had enough. You're not going around, or you're not, this is too much. Of course, it was breaking my heart because my daughter didn't understand. How could she? This is her grandmother. Grandmothers are supposed to be loved and trusted, and they are supposed to love and protect you. So she's being manipulated to think that what that person did to her that hurt her, that it wasn't as bad as it actually was, and he's not really that person. So she's just as confused and hurt, and she hated me for a long time. Every time I take her away, she was just as mad at me. I caught it from every end ever. Okay? Everyone hated me. But I knew in my heart and mind that I was doing what was right to protect my child. If this woman couldn't keep away the one person that hurt her so badly, then how the hell you can't expect her to protect her from anything ever. So, like I said, years of this. The last go around, I'm letting her pick Norma up from school. And I find out that after months of her picking her up from school, she's been taking her to her house, which wasn't supposed to happen. I do think I did allow it a couple times. Either way, I find out that the person who hurt her is living there. He's been living there the entire time. And again, my daughter was so manipulated and hurt and struggling with all this that she wanted to tell me, but she was scared to tell me because then she loses her grandmother who loves her so much and she don't know how to feel. And, he's not hurting her right now, so it's not a problem because that's what she's being told. And then you got your mom telling you that, no, this is all very wrong. I finally had it. I finally had enough. This woman has manipulated me and my daughter for years. She has put her in this position over and over and over and over. And if she really truly loved her, she would respect the one thing I've ever asked. One thing: don't let him around her. You can love him. That's your grandchild as well. I don't give a shit. Don't allow him around my child. Simple. And she refused. It's like she wanted to have them around each other. She wanted the family back that she used to have. She wanted everyone to pretend everything was okay. There was even one time where she asked me if Norma could go to the beach for a week. And yeah, he'd be there, but he wouldn't be in the same room. I mean, years of this, years and years and years. So finally, I cut her off. I told her again, if you want to come to my home and see her, you can. She refused. That's not your home. I'm not going to see her there. She can come to my home. There's so much more. There's the bull crap with the Christmas gifts that year after I cut her off. She was holding Norma's Christmas gifts hostage. It was a whole thing. She had gotten Norma her bass clarinet, and Norma had bought her gifts, which of course were not expensive and fancy because we're broke, but I did allow Norma to, because I mean it was hurting Norma so bad. We met up at a park after a lot. Oh, that's how I found out he was living there. Sorry, let me backtrack. I didn't know he had been living there until I asked about Christmas. I was like, hey, when are we meeting up? To do our gifts and stuff together. And we were still good at this moment. And that's when she said, well, he will be here, but he'll be locked in his room. I'm like, his room? How long has he been living there? You've been picking my child up this whole time, bringing her to your home. What do you mean, his room? That's how we found out. So when I cut her off, we were still talking about, exchanging the gifts, and Norma was obviously really upset all over again. She's losing her grandmother again. And so we agreed to meet at a park after hell and high water went through, so much to get there. We exchanged the gifts. Norma's happy, then she's sad, the usual. And then this woman has the nerve to tell everyone that, well, she didn't mind me getting that $2,000 instrument and giving it to her. That's all she wanted. Now she wants to let me talk to Norma. No. Matter of fact, I almost gave it back to her because I don't give a shit. I buy one. I got to make payments. I don't care. But whatever. She does still have it. That's not the point. The point is that she made it every step of the way. It's always been, I'm this horrible person. And so since then, that was the last time. That's it. I'm done. I will never again. I told Norma when she's 18, if she makes the choice to talk to her, she can. Until then, no. Because even just talking to her on the phone, one, isn't good enough for the grandma. She won't accept that. She's not going to come to our home to talk to her. And I don't trust her not to manipulate her. It's been a hell of a ride with this. And so from that point on, she would, and she did this throughout the times that she wasn't allowed around. She would send gifts and leave stuff on the porch and, this, that, and the other. Well, in the last year, maybe more, I don't know how long it went on when I lived next door, but it maybe 2 years, maybe the last 2 years, she has constantly sent letters, and they're manipulative as fuck. And at the end of this, I'm going to read portions of one letter, actually. Well, maybe I'll just tell you what they said. But she nonstop has sent letters. She has nonstop rode by. She apparently watches the graveyard and has a man over there who has a trail cam. And I'm assuming she gets him to check it to see if we've been over there because of what was said in the last letter. So I found out from Norma that at one point in time, when I had stopped her, after the last time when I had stopped her from seeing her, Norma finally decided to tell me the truth. She had been sneaking off to see her grandmother. Her grandmother took her out of state or out of town or whatever to my niece's baby shower. I had no idea. Norma was supposed to be at the park. I was at work. You know, there were people next door, grandma and grandpa, but they're older. She went with her to a baby shower and came back before I got off work. So, yes, I know everybody's thinking that's kidnapping. Yes, it is. So I go to the police. I go to Halifax. I try to get just a no contact order. I'm not trying to put some old woman in jail, okay? Understand the position I'm in. There is no winning. Either you put an old woman and a grandmother in jail, which is also my child's grandmother, which at this point I will say she fully understands that she was manipulated. She fully understands what her grandmother has done wrong and that it was wrong. At this point in her life, she's making the decision not to talk to her. But regardless, I have said, until you're 18, that woman's not allowed around you. So regardless, it's my decision, but I will say Norma understands it. But still, no one wants to put their child's grandmother in jail, okay? So I try to get a no contact order, and they're like, well, she's not threatening you. Even though she's harassing me, she's following me, she's constantly, sending letter after letter and this and that and sending people over here. I've had to stop all contact with all of that side of the family, because I've tried over the years to trust them. Hey, I don't want to take everyone out of Norma's life. That is her dad's side of the family. I want them involved. I can't trust any of them. I allowed her great aunt to bring her great granddad over to our home, and that's how she found out where we live now, because they told her. Then her great uncle was sent over here to bring her a present. Like, it's never just they want to see her, ever. It's always connected to the grandmother. It's always something else. I cannot trust any of them, which leads me to where I'm at and what I have figured out. And yes, we are still dealing with this to this day. I got a letter a couple days ago. I'm going to tell you about that letter real quick, and then I'm going to tell you what I've realized. And this is just me getting all the truth out and letting it go. So, the letter was to Norma. They're all to Norma. And they're all, I love you so much. Well, this one was another really manipulative one. I don't understand why you hate me, and you should be grown up enough to at least write me and tell me. Which, no, she is still a minor. She is not grown enough to do anything, because I don't let her. Quit putting so much pressure on my child. That's the whole point of me saying you're not involved with my child, because she is a child. This should not be on her. Now, don't get me wrong, Norma's mature and she is making her own decisions. I'm sure she could write her a letter and explain, but it wouldn't do any good. And I've told Norma, because Norma has been like, I'll call her and I'll tell her. It wouldn't do any good, because no matter what, this woman is going to be convinced that it's just evil me taking this child out of her life. It wouldn't even register if she told her to her face. It would be, oh, your mom told you to say that. You know what I mean? So that's pointless. The part of the letter that really bothered me other than that was, I can't believe you didn't go to your father's grave this year for Father's Day. How would she know that we didn't go the entire day? We go every year. This first year we've missed. How would she know that we didn't go at all that day? The woman rides past my house. She has sent people to my work in the past. She has shown up there in the past. She writes letters constantly. She stalks my Facebook. I know she'll see this. It never ends. Never. And I don't put it past her, because Norma has told me that she talks to that man that has the trail cams that point towards my husband's grave. Either she sat out there all day, or she asked that man about the trail cams to look and see if we ever came down there. It's creepy. It's beyond creepy. And I have in the past worried, because this woman does own a gun, that one day I might not be here anymore. I know that seems excessive, but if you knew some of the other things that she has done, you would understand. I'm not, I guess, brave enough to put all that on the internet, because I know everything I say and do does come with backlash from her. But again, it's never ending. It hasn't stopped yet. All these years, it hasn't stopped. And the craziest part about it is it's all disguised as just a loving grandmother wanting to see her grandchild. And that's why I want to put the truth out there, because it's not that. It is not that. I wish it was that. I wish Norma could see her dad's side of the family. I wish she had a loving grandmother who would love and protect her at all costs. But that's not her. Norma does have that. My parents are wonderful. But I wish she had from both sides, and she doesn't. This woman will stop at nothing. And what I've realized over the years, I watched this documentary. It was a woman who would push her sons to have babies. She wanted a girl so bad. And she basically treated that girl like it was her baby. And it reminded me so much of Norma's grandmother. There are things I will not say, but I have every reason, trust me, I have every reason to believe that she wholeheartedly wanted a girl. She wanted a girl. She wanted that child to be hers. And that is why all these years she has treated Norma like that is her child. And it's killing her that she has no control over her. Now, that doesn't explain why she would still choose to take someone who hurt that child and bring them around constantly. And it doesn't make sense. But I'm telling you, I wholeheartedly believe that she feels like she has always had a right to my child. Good, bad, or whatever. She feels that way. I don't understand her choices of bringing him around her. Why she insists. Because she would be able to see her. She could have had a relationship with her all these years had she just protected her and kept him away. I don't know what her obsession is with allowing them around each other. And now, she has been bringing him, giving him rides to someone's house right across the street from me. 2 doors down across the street. I have to look at that little motherfucker. Pardon my language, but he is a motherfucking piece of shit. And I have to stand in my front yard and look at him and know that there is nothing I can do. Again, this is the person who hurt my child in ways you would never imagine. That you never sleep the same again. You never breathe the same again after your child has been hurt like that. And I have to stand there and see him get in and out of her van. And she's just driving him around like it's nothing. Steady writing my child letters. Steady riding by. And I worry. I don't leave Norma home alone. She's 14. I can't. Because he's visiting right there. Every bit of peace of mind. And thank God I have the most incredible neighbors. All of my neighbors, everyone who surrounds me, I'm friends and family with, they all know the situation and they all look out for her van. They tell me when she rides by. They know what's up. I got cameras up. But still, that's not enough to really give you that peace of mind, because it never stops. I feel like this woman is obsessed with having my child. I don't know what her obsession is with having those two around each other, but in what I have found out in the last year, my child was not the first family member to be hurt. Now, I knew from the beginning that the person that hurt my daughter hurt his sisters. He did the same things to them. But in the recent years, I have found out that it goes back a generation. There were more people that were molested and messed with in that family, and it was covered up. And I don't know how many generations back that goes, but this is actually a common occurrence in that family. I have had people, and I'm not saying names, I'm not going to say what happened, but they have told me their story of what happened to them. They have told me stories of things that may have happened to my husband when he was a child. And all of that has been covered up. And what has happened with the person who hurt my daughter, he hurt his sisters, that's been covered up. I'm the only one who has spoken out about it. My child's the only one who was willing to go to court and stand up and tell her story, which our court system sucks and nothing ever came of it. And now he's he's out there doing whatever the fuck he wants. He's been arrested since then for having kidnapped, or the girl was missing. She was at the grandmother's house where the boy lives, and that was an underage girl. It's not stopped. He's a predator. It's never going to stop. The grandmother's actions never going to stop. And that is why I'm here today making this video, because I have had it. I am so sick and tired of running from my past and trying to live a normal life and never telling the truth and never speaking out anymore, because I'm trying my best to, hey, if I'm quiet, maybe she'll leave us alone. Maybe it won't be so bad. It is that bad. There are still letters that are manipulative all the time. The woman is following and watching me. She's bringing my child's rapist across the street several times a week. It's not getting any better. I don't know what else to do. And today being Eric's birthday really just triggered so much in my mind. And I know that if Eric were here, he would not allow this to go on. And that's the thing that I guess did trigger all this, is the thought of her always saying that your father, in all these letters, your father would never want you taken away from his family, your family. Your dad would never let this happen. No, your daddy, Norma's daddy, he would have killed the person that hurt you. He would have never allowed anyone to put you in a messed up position, a situation ever again. He would have stopped all the letters. He wouldn't allow you to bring that boy across the street. He wouldn't have allowed any of this. Eric was scared of nothing. Nothing. And he would have stopped at nothing to make sure his daughter was safe and happy, regardless of who that's with. He would have never allowed anyone to do this. And I'm so sick of her using his memory and him against my child. It's not true. It's just not true. Eric wouldn't have allowed it. I'm so upset, and I'm at my wit's end with all of this, because I feel like there's never an end in sight. It's just not. And even when that person is gone, it's never going to be over because it's family. It's family. All these people are family that have hurt my child, and that it never goes away. It shall never have a normal life as much as I try, because that's always going to be there. And I mean, even down to the damn tombstone that has been put down, the spitefulness of this woman. His tombstone says something along the lines of loving father, brother, and uncle. Not husband. This woman has tried to erase the fact that we were ever married. As a matter of fact, she still has my box of wedding stuff, my wedding dress, my guest book, everything, all the stuff for my wedding day. She has it and won't let me have it. She has all of Eric's things and won't let Norma have any of them. We have nothing of Eric's. Norma has one bandana. I mean, it's crazy that she needs that control so much that she's willing to do whatever to take pieces of me every chance she gets. And even holding it against Norma. You can't have your daddy's things because you're not allowed to come to my home and spend time with me. So therefore you can't have your dad's stuff. I mean, even when we were on good terms, that's how she treated it. Well, if you want to see your dad's things, you'll come here, and we'll fix up your room and my home and your home. It's beyond messed up. It's evil. It really is. So, no, we don't really go to his grave anymore. And that's not just my decision. Like I said, Norma has been making choices of her own. And we used to put stuff on his grave, and no proof of who, but someone kept taking everything we placed down, they would take up. Including what Norma herself put on her daddy's grave is always being taken up. Other stuff is out there. But anything that we've put on his grave has been removed. So we have decided that that's, it's not a place for us to go and grieve and miss him and, whatever, connect with him. That's not our place. We have a different place. And that's all that matters. So, yeah, I know this is such an incredibly long video, and I do apologize, but I hope that you've made it to the end. I know this makes me feel better. Not that anything really makes you feel better. Nothing will ever change what my child has been through. It is fully going to affect her for the rest of her life, and that will never change. I know that this woman is never, ever going to give up, and we will have to suffer because of it. And me and Norma both will always have to worry about running into the person that hurt her all the time. And that never ends. There's never a sense of justice or safety for either of us. It'll never be okay. And because of that, I don't care anymore. I'm going to put the truth out there and be done with it. Because if nothing else, Norma deserves, and I deserve, to at least have the truth out there. I'm tired of being painted as this terrible person who didn't even love Eric, and I've moved on so quick, and I've taken my daughter from his side of the family, and I just want to erase all of them, when that's not the case at all. I would have given anything for Norma to actually have a great, loving family on both sides. This is not a life anyone chooses to live, okay? And that's the truth. I'm done. If you stayed, if you watched all of this, thank you so, so much. For all of you over time who have read those comments and have suggested going to the police or restraining orders, I've listened, and I have done that, but unfortunately, there's nothing I can do for the type of stuff she's doing. So I do really appreciate your support and everybody trying to help. It does mean a lot. It helps me through a lot. So if nothing else, if y'all could pray, I don't know, how many of y'all believe in God, but if you could pray for us to one day have peace, I would appreciate that. So thank you so much for letting me just get all this out, and I guess I will talk to you guys later. Bye.